Well, Canada says it will sanction senior members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and ban them from entering the country. This comes as international pressure grows on Iran over its response to protests triggered by the death of a young woman in police custody. A coroner in Iran has denied that Mahsa Amini was killed by blows she suffered in police detention. But dozens of protesters have been killed in an ensuing crackdown, and many more have been arrested.
Pouring blood instead of water. At least that's what it looks like after an unknown artist turned these fountains in Tehran red, highlighting the bloody crackdown on protests all over Iran. Amnesty International says it has verified that at least 52 people have been killed by security forces in recent weeks, but believes the real death toll is much higher. One of the victims, Nika Shakarami. The 16-year-old disappeared after taking part in the protests against the Islamic Republic. 9 days later, authorities admitted she was dead, saying she fell off a high building, a claim her mother rejects. Her face, cheekbones and teeth were ruptured. The back of her head was hit hard, and her skull was deformed. This is how she was killed. We received a lot of threats, and we were asked to bury the body somewhere else. I didn't accept that. On the day in the morning, they stole the body without our permission and without telling any of us, and buried it in a remote village under tight security conditions. Meanwhile, Iran State TV aired a new video allegedly showing Gina Mahsa Amini, the woman whose death sparked all the protests, breaking down in police custody without being attacked. A story her family rejects, saying her corpse too showed clear signs of being bruised and beaten. And so the protests all over the country continue. For Mahsa and Nika, for women, life and freedom.
I spoke a short time ago to Samaneh Savadi. She's an Iranian activist and expert on gender equality. She lives in the UK, and I asked her if the increase of international pressure on Iran is likely to show any kind of impact on the regime.
I think one of the issues for a long time was basically international community not taking any action against violation of a human right and violation of a woman's right in Iran. So therefore, Iran was continuing to those actions, and we believe, Iranian activists, so many of us believe that a basic inquiry for any negotiation with Islamic Republic must be human rights. So these actions, of course, I do believe, do not have any short-term impact, but in the long run, may make Iran responsible for its actions and put more pressure on them, and hopefully will change the situation for people inside.
Well, we've also been seeing these solidarity protests taking place all over the world. Did you expect this level of global support when the first protesters took to the streets in Iran itself 3 weeks ago?
I think so. What happened this time was every single Iranian could basically relate to what happened. In the previous protests, sometimes people would come to the street because of economic reasons. Sometimes people, because they were activists, because they were journalists, they have been arrested, they have been killed inside Iran. But what happened this time was ordinary women walking in the street and being arrested by the morality police and being killed. So therefore, I believe every single Iranian could relate to that. They were like, I don't need to even protest. I don't need to be an activist or journalist to be arrested, to be put in a prison or to be killed just because I am Iranian, just because I am a woman. That can put my life in a threat. So therefore, I think they understood that they should take an action, and Iranian all over the world could relate to the situation, and they wanted change, and now they are demanding change.
Well, there have been protests in Iran numerous times over the last several decades, but most of them are generally put down rather swiftly by a brutal response from the Iranian government. So what is likely to happen this time around? What's next for these protests?
I believe we are in a process. It is not we don't know what exactly going to happen next, but what we know is that this was a very big step toward change for Iranian people. What is happening this time is the protesters are very diverse and from different backgrounds, from different ethnics. So therefore, it seems this time is we see a diversity even on demands. In the past, they would arrest journalists, activists, and therefore the protest would slow down. But this time, even the authorities are quite confused because these protests do not have any specific leaders. Every single person in the street has its own demands, and they are their own leaders. They are arresting so many of activists, so many of journalists, but as we can see, still the protests are going on. And I think the new generation brought basically a new energy to everything. They are, as we can see now, even students are protesting against Islamic Republic. So what I think is this time, it's not gonna. We are not gonna see a regime change just today or tomorrow, but we took a very big step toward it.
That was Iranian activist Samaneh Sabadi. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on DW.